Today's PowerPoint will be about chairs. This is such a stupid idea for a channel. This is the famous 1818 US painting titled Declaration of Independence. It depicts one of the most important moments in US history, yet all my brain sees is this chair. I mean, think about it. This chair was just a chair in some government room until John Hancock sat in it and signed his ridiculously large signature on one, if not the most important document in US history. Seriously though, what is this? Apparently he wrote it like this to ensure that the king could read his signature without glasses. Yeah, okay, John, I think NASA could see this from space. Now, this painting doesn't actually depict the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It shows them signing a draft of it, and these men were never in the same room at the same time. But in a way, this chair is now a part of history, which made me think, what are the most important chairs in history? There are many notable chairs, like lawn chairs, Eames chairs, gamer chairs, or the one they use in the WWE. But what are the most important ones? Well, it turns out there's quite a few. Like, for example, St. Peter's chair. Possibly the most godly chair to ever exist. I mean, look at it. You can just hear the Halo theme. St. Peter was a prominent disciple of Jesus and the first ever pope. The chair itself is made of oak and acacia and sits in Rome. St. Peter's chair was kept by Italian Emperor Charles the Bold, who ironically was actually quite a hairy man, and was then gifted to Pope John the 8th in 875 AD, which is a pretty cool gift. I mean, a literal saint sat in this chair. Well, not this chair. This is actually just a bronze sculpture that encases the chair. The actual chair for sitting looks like this. And unfortunately, there's no proof that St. Peter actually sat on it. I mean, look at it. It's pretty holy. But if you'd rather be a monarch than a monk, maybe try the coronation chair. Basically sit in this chair to become King of England. It's made of oak, it holds the stone of scorn, which the English stole from the Scottish and since returned for coronations. I know what you're thinking, are these markings cool medieval engravings? No, they're not. They're actually just graffiti from school children when the chair was on display. The coronation chair was last used to crown this guy who is absolutely ecstatic. But if you're looking for a different type of throne, there's always the toilet that Elvis died on. Yes, this is actually true. Elvis Presley died on the toilet. The toilet itself was made from porcelain, but how did he actually die on it? Apparently it was the physical strain of trying to have a bowel movement compressed his abdominal aorta, causing his heart to stop, which makes sense because one of his favorite foods was a fool's gold loaf, which is apparently a whole loaf of white bread hollowed out and filled with a pound each of bacon, peanut butter, and grape jelly. Jesus Christ. I couldn't find a photo of the actual toilet, but apparently it's just to the left of this very eerie photo. And speaking of chairs people have died in, next up we have Lincoln's theater chair. In 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was watching a play in Washington, D.C. when he was shot by John Wilkes Booth. Booth is also a kind of chair. The chair Lincoln was sitting in was a Lincoln rocking chair. It was made from walnut and silk. In fact, it was his favorite chair to watch plays in, and they would specifically bring it out for him when he visited. The chair is now on display, and yes, there are still small samples of blood still in the chair, but that's not what this big stain is. This is mostly hair oil. Damn, Abe, how much grease does it take to achieve a comb over? But even the ancient Egyptians had chairs, specifically this ancient Egyptian, King Tutankhamun. Throne. This chair looks like it was made of solid gold, but it's actually wood covered in gold leaves, which somehow seems more luxurious. King Tutankhamun ruled Egypt from 1332 to 1323 BCE, which sounds like I got that backwards, but it's before 0, so it's moving never mind. He became a pharaoh at 8 years old, which meant he ruled Egypt as a child. When I was 8 years old, I was still playing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I bet King Tut had all the pieces of Exodia. Anyway, King Tutankhamun died at 18 years old. Apparently he had a lot of joint problems. Oh, he's just like me. Also for reference, the coronation chair is 729 years old, St. Peter's chair is 1,965 years old, and King Tut's throne is 3,355 years old, which still isn't as old as your mother. The backrest looks like some ancient Egyptian ritual, but it's really just his wife, and he's applying oil to him. So That's cool. Think about it. The last person to sit in this chair was the Pharaoh child ruler of Egypt. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, it was more likely Howard Carter, the man who discovered the tomb in 1922. Because I don't know about you, but if I found that chair, I would 100% do my Borat impression. King of the castle, king of the castle, I have a chair. Okay, this next one is the last death-related one, I promise. The electric chair. Made of wood, leather, metal, wires, and about 2,000 volts of electricity. It was first used in 1890, but can you guess when it was last used? Is it A, 1895, B, 1920, or C, 2020? If you guessed 1920, you'd be about 100 years off. Yep, really. Apparently it's a punishment that sort of comes and goes somewhat due to ethical concerns. You know, it's like cruel and unusual, but it's only used on serial killers and like really bad people. So I mean, I don't know, it's like a trolley problem type shit. Anyway, here's one that's more wholesome. Roald Dahl's writing chair. This chair supported the man who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The BFG, Matilda, Fantastic Mr. Fox. But Roald Dahl's chair is not even in his house. He has a little riding hut, which is so wholesome. He even modified it, took bits out, put cushions in to make it as comfortable as possible. Apparently Roald would sit in the same chair in the same place at the same time of day, which would always help him switch on the riding part of his brain. This chair basically activated his flow state. Also, no one was allowed to sit in this chair apart from Roald Dahl, not family, friends, no one, which is kind of funny. Roald Dahl died in 1990, but his chair is on display, and no, you're still not allowed to sit in it. And finally, possibly the most important chair in history, the Apollo 11 seating. In 1969, the USA launched astronauts Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Buzz Aldrin on a mission to land on the moon. By the way, did you know that Buzz's first name is actually Edwin? But come on, Buzz is way cooler, right? I mean, can you imagine if it was Edwin Lightyear? Armstrong and Aldrin landed on the moon on July 20th, 1969, depending on what Earth time zone you pick, while Collins stayed with the Saturn V ship. Fun fact, while Buzz and Neil were on the moon, Colin was closer to them than he was to everyone else that has ever existed. The two landed in the lunar module. The chairs were made out of aluminum, nylon webbing, and polyurethane silicone. Although they were never actually called chairs, they were referred to as restraint assemblies, crew positioning aids, and the pilot station interface, which is very spacey and cool. But if you think about it, these were officially the first chairs on the moon. I believe it was Dr. Seuss who said, "Here's a chair, there's chairs everywhere." Actually, he didn't say that. The only chair-related Dr. Seuss quote I could find was, "The empty chair reminds me of the first Thanksgiving without my father." Perhaps a chair is just a chair until someone sits in it. Or maybe it's just a chair.